Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar, and do you pay an internet company money to watch a video like this? Probably. If you're in the United States, which is where the majority of my viewer base is, you probably have one of the other two or three devils that exist in your country. One of the actual evil companies that exist, telecom companies, all of them I put in the evil bin, is AT&T, okay? You probably have an AT&T subscription, some of y'all out there. Now, depending on where you live, you might have a choice of who diddles you internet bill-wise, but in some places, AT&T's all you got. So today I want to just read something to you. AT&T disclosed that a new data breach exposed phone call and text message records for roughly 110 million people. Nearly all of its customers. No, not some, not 5%, nearly all, okay? Yeah, meaning if you're an AT&T customer, there might be a chance that your information's just floating out there. Now, this is some pretty big information, so I wanted to exactly unpack how this happened, because like all things in the world of cybersecurity, it is incredibly complicated. And who do you point fingers at? Who do you blame? Well, that's what we're trying to figure out today. So based on this Form 8K from the US Security and Exchange Commissions, if you're a nerd like me, you probably read this for companies you're interested in. Anyways, AT&T filed this, again, the date of this was May 6th, 2024, okay? This is the earliest event reported. One of the things that they had actually put down into this story is item 1.05, cybersecurity incidents. So on April 19, 2024, all right, very recent, AT&T learned that a threat actor claimed to have unlawfully accessed and copied AT&T call logs. AT&T immediately activated its incident response process, the nerds, the John Wick of nerds, to investigate and retained basically experts, externally to help. So under their investigation, AT&T believes the threat actors unlawfully accessed an AT&T workspace in a third-party cloud platform between the dates of April 14th and April 25th, 2024. So they exfiltrated files that contained the AT&T records of customer call and text interactions that had occurred between May 1st to October 31st, 2022, as well as January 2nd, 2023. So the data, as they say, does not contain the contents of calls or text, personal information such as social security numbers, date of births, or other personally identifiable information. Based on their analysis, they said that all this data includes is records of, calls that occurred during periods of times, records of calls and texts of nearly all of AT&T's wireless customers and the people who are in their mobile virtual network operators, anybody that's using their specific wireless network. The records identify the telephone numbers with which an AT&T or MVNO wireless number interacted during this period, including telephone numbers of AT&T's wireline customers and the customers of other carriers, counts of those interactions, and aggregate call duration for a day or month. Now, you might be wondering, well, Muda, okay, if this doesn't include customer names, what is so scary about this? The point of it is, okay, this kind of information, these call logs, help build a pattern of what people are doing. If they're calling specific numbers, how long they're calling for, a lot of this information is aggregated and it's used ultimately by scammers to find clever ways to attack any certain target out there. Now, AT&T's only breach wasn't this. Unfortunately, if you've been following anything related to AT&T, literally just this year as well, on one of these large hacking forums, right, AT&T had a 70 million line breach where apparently one of their division databases was hacked by a group known as the Shiny Hunters. So effectively, what had happened was all these lines were leaked out, lines that could have contained really sensitive information. And how do we know this stuff was real? Well, according to a lot of people who are in the game that have actually earned the respect of the industry, one of them is VX Underground, great friend of the channel, said that 70 million records, unspecified division were leaked. No information is available to indicate whether it is a third-party compromise or which division this came from. Regardless, upon review, we can confirm the stolen data is legitimate, okay? So this data was all the way back from 2021, but it's recent enough to be used by a bunch of scammers. Now, the thing is, when you have multiple different breaches, it's always going to be a situation where you grab one set, another breach set, and always amalgamate that information to identify, who's who. So if in one breach, like right now, all you have are numbers interacting with other numbers. Now, let's say you have a breach where you can identify which number belonged to which name, then it's simply a matter of plugging, information around and figuring out who those unidentified numbers from the most recent breach actually really are, if that makes proper sense. Now, the thing is, obviously, even back 3 months ago when this was being talked about, AT&T, literally, people were wondering what you're supposed to do. And I think the best advice is right here. For instance, change all of your passwords for everything, okay? Chances are, a lot of people, unfortunately, use the same password or even a variation across multiple websites. So if your password was hacked from AT&T and you're using it on Google, well, congratulations. Your Google account is also compromised. So again, moral of the story, use a password manager, unique passwords for every site. Then if one site gets hacked, because oftentimes they do, then you never have to really stress about your actual password being leaked. Now, of course, you've got two-factor authentication, and you want to use the app-based one, not the text message-based one or the email-based one. Use something that is app-signed. That's pretty much how it works. And of course, freeze credit reporting, because here's the thing. When your identity is out there on the internet, bad people can use it for bad reasons, and it's always best to call these credit monitoring companies up and make sure that, things are frozen, things are being processed and analyzed before something bad really happens. Then you have a lot of headache to worry about. Now, here's my problem with stuff like AT&T. I consider AT&T and anyone that operates the internet, the telephone services that we use every single day of our lives to be basically critical infrastructure. And I honestly believe that when it comes to these companies, they are very much responsible, more so than the average company, for making sure your information and data is safe. The problem is, with all of the breaches that have happened, even if information in this one breach, like I said, isn't identifiable, just by itself, it can be combined with other breaches and used against the average customer. And it appears that nearly all of the information from a certain time period was out there. And I'm pretty sure all of those users were actively using their cellular devices to call or make text. So there is a log of interactions that have just basically been leaked and is being parsed through by the entire internet world. So according to an AT&T spokesperson, they said that they confirmed the incident arose when the telco's Snowflake environment was accessed by cyber criminals, okay? Now, Snowflake is something that you might not know of, but if you're a big company that works in data analytics and you need a, service, that's who they are. So Snowflake, to show you who they really are, this company, they're an AI data cloud, okay? They're an American cloud company that their job is basically to offer cloud-based data storage and analytic services. So you go to this site over here, and their entire job is effectively to help identify, understand data, process it, and basically serve the role for big companies, right? So according to Snowflake, their company is basically powered by an advanced data platform provided as a self-managed service. So Snowflake enables data storage, processing, analytic solutions that are faster, easier to use, and far more flexible than traditional offerings. I guess what Snowflake didn't provide to tell people is that they have been susceptible to one of the largest breaches in computer history, okay, in cybersecurity history in general. So from this one post on the Stack, June 1st, it was actually worth reading that what they had said was Snowflake warned its customers, and by the way, Snowflake, from what I understand, the allegations are around 120 customers were affected. But for Snowflake, a customer is not somebody like you and I. The customer is AT&T. The customer are, other sites like Ticketmaster, for instance. So their customers inadvertently have their own customers that range in the hundreds of millions of users at the time. So for these big companies, the actual Achilles heel for them was relying on this one third-party service that they had shared data around for their own company's sake, right? So what they had said in this write-up for the Stack, Snowflake warned customers to check for malicious traffic from an end user identifying itself as R-word flake, okay? I'm sure you can imagine what that word is, and admitted that it has been seen as potentially unauthorized access to certain customer accounts. Now, at this moment in time, people were a little freaked out, and this hack on Snowflake, or attacking the accounts for Snowflake, led to other large breaches. Now, you might know this company known as Ticketmaster, right? You know, you go basically over here, you find somebody you're interested in, like, shit, let me listen to some Sum 41, boys. Click on that. Let me find some tickets in Victoria, British Columbia. And last thing but not least, you click on any of these blue boxes, you hit one of these items, and boom, you buy a ticket for $610, right? Now, usually bots probably buy up all the lion's share of tickets beforehand, but yeah, that's a whole different story. Now, Ticketmaster, aside from being an employer for Terry Davis, there's some Temple OS lore right there, they were actually attacked in a data security incident too. So what they said was they discovered unauthorized activity on an isolated cloud database. It was their Snowflake account, okay? You see the similarities here? So what they said was all of your accounts remain completely secure. But underneath their investigation, they said that the database that was hacked contained limited personal information of some customers who bought tickets to events in North America, basically the United States, Canada, and or Mexico. That may include emails, phone numbers, thankfully encrypted credit card information, which the credit card companies would require, not so much these guys out of their own kindness, as well as some other personal information provided to them, okay? So basically, what Ticketmaster had said was, yeah, they got hacked. And if you looked on the internet for a lot of these hack websites, it was this one group, the Shiny Hunters, once again, releasing the Live Nation Ticketmaster information. So they were selling all of this information, 1.3 terabytes of, for 500,000 US dollars, okay? Now you might be wondering, who would pay $500,000 for that kind of information? Well, it would be somebody interested in having access to 560 million customers' full details. So having your name, your address, email, and phone, that can be very lucrative for people that are scammers. If you have personal information on 560 million people, that means every single one of your cold calling scam attempts become that much more successful when you can actually personalize your scam for somebody that you actually know is behind the number that you are actually calling. Okay, that's just one example out there, right? So how did this hack actually occur? Did some hacker break into Snowflake and absolutely violate them and inadvertently violate all of their, customers as well too? If that was the case, the hack would be a lot bigger than we know right now. So to give you an idea, Google actually wrote up a pretty good write-up about this, titling it UNC 5537, okay, which is basically, a set of activity that targets Snowflake customer instances. So to give an idea, what they described was basically Mandiant, a company, had received threat intelligence on database records that were subsequently determined to have originated from a victim's Snowflake instance. So Mandiant notified the victim, who then engaged Mandiant to investigate the data theft. So to give an idea right now, what they actually said over here too, was the threat actor used stolen credentials they got via InfoStealer malware to access customers' instances and ultimately exfiltrate the valuable data. And at the time of the compromise, the account did not have multi-factor authentication enabled, which means I'm actually shocked that Snowflake didn't mandate it for companies as large as Ticketmaster and fucking AT&T. And also, why the fuck would AT&T and Ticketmaster not think, oh shit, we have a lot of valuable data here for a lot of valuable people that are our customers. Maybe I should employ the most basic security practice imaginable. Nope, didn't do it at all. So when looking into this situation, you can see that this diagram, which I'll help explain how it works, basically using InfoStealer malware, and I'll show you exactly what kind of InfoStealer malware that could have been used. For instance, one could have been this Asuka Stealer malware. Now, this is not the confirmed version or the confirmed malware. This is just an example. To give you an idea, companies sell this for $80 a month, okay? Basically, these are InfoStealer malwares whose functions are to collect browser data, Discord tokens, FileZilla sessions, Telegram sessions. So even when it comes to your web browser, you got cookies, passwords, account sync, extensions for various different browsers and engines out there. You've also got, more things over here. It's a convenience stealer for users. Each user has the right to decide what they need. So they have convenient configurations. Literally, they've got proper tech support for everything over here. And what's interesting is if you look carefully, they'll tell you that our stealer does not work in the CIS. We are strictly against work in the CIS. So what is the CIS? Just for quick understanding, the CIS is, I believe, Russian territories. It's like a commonwealth of their states, so Russia, I believe any state in that area. Again, it's a whole situation of don't shit where you eat. These guys are basically protected by the protection of the Russian government, basically being a nation state, group at this point. These guys, effectively, as long as they don't shit on their host country, they can basically do whatever they want and make a significant amount of cash. Now, again, this kind of info stealer malware was effectively used against a customer of Snowflake. And that customer can be the person that is ultimately, the people leading your data, right? Like people deep in AT&T, the people, the higher ups that have that kind of access with Snowflake. So once that information was stolen by info stealer malware, what happened was those credentials, so for instance, the AT&T guys, they got hacked. Their, credentials were stolen. And then utilizing, again, those stolen credentials, they were able to log in to Snowflake, services. So once they got access to the customer instance, which in this case is that AT&T info that contained that level of information, they were doing what is known as database and external storage recon. So when somebody logs into a service like this, they will ultimately leave a log behind. So at this moment, you got to be really careful, okay? You can't be logging in and out hundreds of times a day. Snowflake would jump in and just say, hey, listen, assholes, you guys are fucking hacked, okay? So it's time to reset passwords, enable 2FA, make sure you're safe. So they were very carefully pretending to be somebody from these companies, figuring out what data was what, accessing exactly in the smart, most, safe ways. And once they figured out exactly what they wanted, they had basically exfiltrated that information. And once the information is exfiltrated, it's packaged up and it's distributed. And that's where we're at now when AT&T is saying, yep, nearly all information is basically out there, okay? So realistically, you have to sit down and wonder, who is to blame in this situation, Muda? Is it AT&T? Is it this Snowflake company? Or is it most likely the person who decided not to have proper security, settings in place, like two-factor authentication on their big data processing instance? Okay, that person should probably have the finger pointed at them. And the other thing is how they even launched the InfoStealer malware to begin with. Why things like this weren't whitelisted, certain IP, certain access points. These are all questions, good questions people can ask. But ultimately, everyone's playing a game of Captain Hindsight once a hack has happened, because now we're just sitting here basically resetting our passwords, making sure we're more secure. Again, all of the hours and the time and money wasted ultimately trickle down to the average person who is their customer. AT&T should have done a lot more to protect themselves, and even if a contractor they hired was ultimately, responsible for being hacked, or one of their services was hacked and they didn't put in their due diligence, all the blame lies with AT&T, lies with Ticketmaster, lies with all of these companies. This is by far one of the largest data breaches that has ever happened, and it's just part of an even larger data breach that consistently keeps growing as the days pass. The only credence to a lot of this is as more banks and services get hacked, as more and more fights keep brewing out between the FBI, these hacking groups that are distributing all these, breaches around. And, eventually, at some point, it's going to have to be reworked and it's going to have to be investigated even more deeply than it already is. But yeah, AT&T says nearly all the information is out there, but hopefully today you learned exactly how that happened. And, even if not all of your information is out there in this one breach, the scary thing that you have to worry about is all of this information being combined and used against you. Look, the scam calls that people end up getting every single day, I know you know it, I know it, everyone knows it. A lot of this stuff is happening, and a lot of it's getting really good these days, not just because AI is assisting with, faking the social engineering sometimes for people, but it also comes out with the fact that once you have more granular information, hitting somebody in general, okay, with the scam becomes a lot easier. But identity theft is also a concern. A whole bunch of concerns arise. So yeah, just be careful and just understand that even without you trying, you could absolutely do your level best every fucking day. But a company like AT&T just has that one point of failure, that one human being, and the whole house of cards keeps crumbling down. But yeah, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.